Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk. Super Mario Land started the naming tradition that the series would become so attached to of Super Mario Blank, replacing a straight up entry number with such fun things as words. And this format had and still has so much potential. You could name something Super Mario Ice Cream, or Super Mario Toaster, or Super Mario Radiator. Or you could just go with Super Mario World. People always talk about trying to inhabit a different planet, while I'm just sat here going, By the release of Super Mario Land on the Game Boy in 1990, it was abundantly clear that the Super Mario Bros. Series had become an absolute titan of the games industry, easily able to captivate millions upon millions of players with its wondrous, whimsical worlds and characters and the solid foundation of gameplay they were built upon. By now, it was impossible to imagine a Nintendo system releasing without a new Mario game, and with the imminent release of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, it was fair to expect a new Mario game to follow shortly after. At the same time can be shortly. Super Mario World, released alongside the SNES on April 11th, 1992 here in the UK, and was the biggest evolution in the series so far, not only making the jump from a handheld to the shiny new Super Nintendo, but also making the jump from 8 bits to 16. Now, Super Mario Land was famously developed without the aid of series creator Shigeru Miyamoto, which led to that game having very little to do with the established Mario series, for better or for worse. But one of the reasons he was unavailable for that project was the fact that he was developing Super Mario World to release alongside Nintendo's upcoming console. Super Mario World was a launch title for the Super Nintendo, the game that would have to try and sell people on why doing this was a good idea. Miyamoto wanted this game to be as close to perfect as feasibly possible, which is why this game looked incredibly similar to Mario 3 on the build-up to release. Wait, but Mario 3 isn't perfect! It has an STI! Super Mario World opens up with a lovely little message welcoming us to Dinosaur Land, where it seems the Princess Toadstool is missing. Yeah, she was missing from Super Mario Land. What's the big deal? Super Mario World brings back the world map, and unlike the beginning of Super Mario Bros. 3, we have 3 whole levels to pick from right off the bat. If we choose to go to Yoshi's house, we're informed that Bowser has also captured his friends, and we need to help rescue them. Wow, you're really just gonna brush over the introduction of a brand new character like that, aren't you? With that, we have our objectives. Save Yoshi's friends and the princess by taking down Bowser and his fleet of enemies in this Super Mario World. In terms of gameplay, Super Mario World does quite a bit to switch things up relative to what we should be expecting of a Mario game by this point. It's definitely built closely on Super Mario Bros. 3, with running and jumping working as normal, a second stage run activating when you've been running for long enough, which can lead to a higher jump and activate certain abilities with some power-ups, and the ability to pick things up at a moment's notice. It all feels very familiar, but this game is so much more refined than Super Mario Bros. 3. The controls are so tight and responsive. There's an intoxicating flow to the gameplay that feels so natural. After a couple of worlds, Mario's abilities become second nature, and the controller begins to just melt into your hands and become one with your instincts. It's not perfect, but it's damn close. The main new move on offer in this game is the spin jump, activated by pressing the A button, and as mundane as this sounds, it actually offers a lot of utility. There are a lot more spiked foe in Super Mario World compared to previous entries in the series, and the spin jump allows Mario to bounce off of them without taking any damage. This doesn't defeat them, but it can offer an alternative and sometimes more optimal solution to some platforming challenges. When Mario is anything other than small Mario, the spin jump also allows him to break through these yellow blocks, which can open up new paths. The spin jump only has one real downside, in that once you've activated it, you don't stop spinning until you've reached solid ground, which can be detrimental, but can also be quite beneficial. It's a great addition to Mario's moveset. it. Now let's back up a few paces and discuss the fact that Super Mario World was the very first game to feature Yoshi. Yoshi can be found throughout a number of levels in Super Mario World, and acts as a companion to Mario on his adventure through Dinosaur Land. He has the ability to eat enemies using his unnaturally extendable tongue, which defeats them instantaneously, and he also has a pretty interesting relationship with Koopas. Throughout the levels in this game, there are Koopa Troopers with different coloured shells, green and red returning from previous games, and the new additions of blue and yellow shells, and Yoshi gains certain abilities by having a shell of each colour in his mouth. Green shells can simply be spat out to act as a projectile, but red shells allow Yoshi to spit 3 fireballs out, blue shells allow Yoshi to fly temporarily, and the yellow shell allows Yoshi to create mini earthquakes whenever he lands from a jump. Each of these offer a decent bit of utility, and are limited enough to not feel overpowered, but if you're in the club that feels you don't get enough time with these abilities, then fear not, because you can unlock red, blue, and yellow Yoshis later on in the game that get these abilities regardless of what colour shells are in their mouths. Now, the addition of Yoshi is fantastic from a gameplay standpoint, as he adds a lot of variety, especially if you're able to keep him until the end of a level and bring him on to the next. But to me, his inclusion means more than that. Yoshi is merely a small part of something that really sets Mario World apart from the rest of the series in my eyes. Just how damn unique this game is. Super Mario World does not take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, and that couldn't be more clear throughout. Every single element of this game is different than in games prior. It's all familiar, so as to not make it feel entirely separated from Mario like Super Mario Land did, but it presents things in such a thoroughly new way that makes them feel distinctly Super Mario World. The Goombas are back, but not as you'd expect, as when you stomp on them, they aren't defeated, but rather flip over and can be used in a similar way to Koopa shells. Brick blocks are kind of back, in the form of these yellow blocks, but hitting them causes them to spin around rather than causing them to break, and this allows you to jump up or down through them for a short period of time. Koopa Troopers are back, but instead of retracting into their shells when you stomp on them, they come flying out, allowing them to continue on as an enemy without their protective casing. And on top of that, Super Mario World introduces a wealth of brand new enemies. Monty Moles, Chargin' Chucks, Banzai Bills, the Rexes, the Resnos, and so many more, including the first ever appearance of Boos in the Ghost House stages that are also new to this game. And that's just one of the new level themes on offer here. There's the typical grassy stage, but it has its own flair. There's lava caves, there's the Chocolate Island theme, there's jungles, and they're all brought to life by this game's stunning art direction. Every single set piece is gorgeous, featuring some of the nicest pixel art I've personally ever seen. It's cartoony and stylized in the perfect way that gives this game such a charming whimsy. And each of these levels and themes are tied together by a sprawling, interconnected world map, where one world flows into the next so effortlessly. It's a somewhat minor detail in the grander scheme of the game, sure, but it's one that I adore. And all of this is wrapped in a neat little bow by the level design itself, which is absolutely outstanding. Some of the greatest platforming stages I've ever played, not just from Mario, but in general. Each of the levels are really distinct and unique. They all have gimmicks that don't outstay their welcome, but are around long enough to feel impactful. And the way the levels flow from one to another, it's so damn good. Genuinely, the only area I can think that Super Mario World suffers in is its power-ups. The game only features 2 new power-ups, with 5 total: the Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Star from the previous entries return, and the game introduces the Cape Feather and the Pea Balloon. The Cape Feather allows Mario to fly, much in the same way the Raccoon Suit allowed him to in Super Mario Bros. 3. After you've reached the second stage of Mario's run, you can take flight by jumping, but this power-up differs from the Tanuki Suit by actually letting you fly, rather than just gliding. You control Mario in the the air by tilting him back and forth using the D-pad, and you can keep a solid forward trajectory going for a good long time with proper timing, making this a really effective power-up for traveling long distances. The cape also acts as a weapon and line of defense, as spinning it around allows you to deflect projectiles and defeat smaller enemies. The P-balloon is another flying power-up that inflates Mario like a balloon and allows him to fly freely around the level for a limited amount of time. But during this period, Mario is incredibly vulnerable. Now, these power-ups are really cool, and I love their additions. Particularly the Cape Feather, which is honestly one of my favourite 2D Mario power-ups ever. But with them both being flying powers, one of which being pretty similar to a previous power-up, it does leave me wanting a little bit more variety. But with the addition of Yoshi and his whole moveset, this was rarely something I even noticed. But I've still yet to talk about one of my favourite aspects of the game. The Switch Palaces. Throughout the game, you can find different coloured Switch Palaces that, when ended, allow you to activate coloured blocks throughout all of the game's levels. On the surface, this may not seem like a very impactful addition, but I couldn't disagree more with that. By activating these blocks, the levels in the game can be fundamentally changed. They can make them easier by blocking off certain obstacles like pits, but they can also offer up new alternative routes that can often lead to secret exits. This incentivizes you to go back and see how levels have changed once you've activated a new color of block, and can often lead you to new levels that you would have entirely missed otherwise. This, honest to God, gives Super Mario World something of a Metroidvania quality to it. You're encouraged to re-explore previous areas after unlocking these different blocks, which massively buffs this game's replayability, and offers an extremely novel and fun spin on the typical Mario formula. There's often a debate within the Mario fandom of which of the classic 2D Mario games is better, Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World. Both of these games are absolutely incredible, and both absolutely merit taking the top spot, but to me, it's no competition. Super Mario World is the better game by an absolute landslide. This game never misses a beat. I wouldn't say it was a perfect game, but it does so much right. It was consistently so fun from start to finish, and everything that it offered resonated with me in a way that none of the Mario games so far have. Which is saying a lot, because as flawed as games like Mario 1, The Lost Levels, and Land are, I still adore them. And this isn't even making mention of this game's legendary soundtrack that contains some of the most iconic and catchy tunes that the series has to offer. And all of this culminates into that final battle against Bowser, with that eerie, intense music, the constant roar of thunder, and a very mechanically unique encounter. An absolutely perfect way to end such a fantastic game. Apart from that's not the end. Remember those coloured Yoshis I mentioned earlier? Well, they can all be found on Star Road, a world consisting of 5 bonus levels you can reach by finding certain secret exits throughout the game's worlds. Going in, I expected these levels to be harder than the base game, and that preconception was thoroughly put to rest when one of the levels required me to press the A button once, and then I won. No. The real challenge of this game comes in the form of the Special World, unlocked after completing all of Star Road. 8 levels of pure, tricky level design. Some of these levels really put your skills to the test and require damn near pinpoint precision, but they were an absolute blast to complete, even if I died an ungodly number of times. And that's the thing about Super Mario World. Even when it's throwing obstacle after obstacle at me, I can't help but love it. Things that I would normally find infuriating about some other games, I find to still be really fun here. Is it bias? Yes. But I think it's a testament to how well Super Mario World stands the test of time. And if you go through the trouble of beating all of the levels in World Special, you're treated to a completely reskinned version of Dinosaur World, where the world map has, in my opinion, a much nicer colour palette, and certain enemies look different, like the Koopas having Italian man faces. this truly is one of the best platformers of all time. Super Mario World is often revered as one of the greatest platformers of all time, and I would absolutely agree. From start to finish, this game left me with nothing but a smile on my face. And considering the vast amount of content for me to work through with this one, that smile lasted a long time. To me, this is the pinnacle of 2D Mario. It's so unique and creative and beautiful. It's a work of art. Plain and simple. But it does leave me with one question. If Super Mario World is the natural evolution of Super Mario Land, does that mean that the natural evolution of Super Mario World would be Super Mario Galaxy? Oh my god!